Hello all, welcome to another session with me, Varun at OdinSchool. And in this session, let us understand where exactly we stopped at. We saw certain features of object-oriented programming language or object-oriented programming, and that's exactly what we would be talking about in this session also. But we would be talking about polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. So that would be the brief agenda of this session. And talking about why learn Python with data science, I'm sure we all now have an understanding that Python is one of the most important languages that is dominating the field of IT as of now. And thanks to data science, we see how Python has been able to contribute into languages like or into concepts like machine learning, deep learning, or artificial intelligence or IoT. We see almost all of these technologies or these concepts have good involvement of Python in it. And that is the reason why Python becomes one of the most important languages or it literally becomes the hot cake of the 20th century. And now I hope you understand why do we have to learn Python and how it actually brings about a difference when we do it for data science. And to give you a small introduction about us, we at OdinSchool, we are we are a technology upskilling platform, and we would help you continuously acquire new skills. Thereby, you could stay skilled and stay ahead. And guys, my name is Varun. You all know me. I have an experience of 7 years and I've been working as a developer and a trainer. And over these years, I've been able to work on languages like HTML, JavaScript, Python, R, etc. And also on concepts or technologies like machine learning, deep learning, etc. This is all credits to the different organizations that I worked with, thanks to the exposure they've been able to provide me with. And the agenda of this session, as we have just discussed, would be to understand what is polymorphism, what is abstraction, and what is encapsulation. In the older videos, we have already covered on concepts like how do we create a class, what is an object, or how do we create an object, followed by inheritance, or features of inheritance. We have already taken a look at these concepts, and in this particular session, we would be talking about the other three facets of polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. And notwithstanding these guys, as an add-on, we would also be discussing some interview question and answers that are generally bounced upon candidates or generally bounced upon any person who attends to an interview based on Python, or who's a fresher on Python, or who's a beginner at Python. So without wasting time, let us go ahead and quickly start understanding the concepts that are available for us. So to begin with, we have polymorphism here, and we all know what polymorphism is. It is, as you can see, polymorphism is not just one word. It is a combination of two words, poly and morph. So when we talk about poly is, we have uni, we have bi, we have tri, and then we have poly. Poly is many, basically. So based on based on the kind of terminology that you have right in front of you, you can say that it is many forms, right? And even when we talk about morph, it is of different forms. For example, we also talk about a butterfly, or we talk about other small insects which go through the process of metamorphosis. Now here, metamorphosis, you see the word morph. So here, the caterpillar butterfly, the caterpillar, when it goes to sleep, it turns out to be a butterfly when it comes out. So it's changing its form. Correct. And that is exactly what we are trying to understand, or what we are trying to do here as well. When we talk about polymorphism, we are indirectly trying to say that we have an element, or we have an object, or we have something that we've created in Python which can assume different forms too. Right? For example, a woman can be a mother, a wife, an employee in an organization all at the same time. This also stands true for men, by the way. So the same person who possesses different behavior at different situations is called polymorph. So it wouldn't be wrong to say that almost all humans are polymorphs based on the situation. And that is exactly something that we have tried to achieve in Python too. right? Now, how or why is polymorphism important, or what does it do, is what we would be talking about. Now, whenever we work on polymorphism, okay, let me explain this to you with a small example that I have come up with. Cool. So we have gone through inheritance. We have seen how to create methods. We have seen how to create a class. We would be talking about them again as a refresher at the end, but not right now. Firstly, let us go back into polymorphism and understand things about it. Right. So here you can see I have a small case study that I have come up with using polymorphism, or features or concepts of polymorphism. So here I have created two classes. As you can see, my class 1 is cat and class 2 is dog. There are no other classes. This is my first class and this is my second class. And in here I see that I am a cat, my name is something, and I am whatever years old, and cat makes a sound of meow, and that is something which I have tried here too. Dogs bark and cats meow, so I wrote that I'm a dog and my name is whatever. Now we need to ensure that these values go into it, and you would also further notice that make sound or info are independent of these, and yet we would be having an answer. So here see, we have created two class with the names cat and dog, and they share a similar structure. The structure is also almost the same. And how do we know that? If you could go into it and see, we have within in it we have name and age which have been taken globally, correct? After which you see I have definition of info, and this is also definition of info only. They have the same names, yet they are able to do different functionalities. Ideally, if you remember things or concept from the last class, we have discussed that one class can have many uh, objects, or can have many features, but is that true even when it is vice versa? Well, if you're using concepts of polymorphism, well, that can be true, because in polymorphism you're trying to ensure that the same name is serving different purposes on different fronts. Right, guys? So things like these become important in polymorphism, or that is the reason why polymorphism is important, is also something that can be said. So now, understanding this a bit in detail, I have a definition, or I have a function of info self. The same thing is happening here. Again, I see the make sound is also same. Ideally, they should both collide, or they should give us a wrong answer or an overwritten answer. But here, if you can see, we do not have a confusion, and that confusion is all thanks to the features of polymorphism. Right, guys? So this is how polymorph works, or this is the way how we work with polymorphism. Let me again take you back to it. All right, so the second one that I have here for us is abstraction. Now, data abstraction and encapsulation, on a very lighter note, can be said that they are synonyms, and both are almost, even when we talk about the working pattern or the way things happen behind the screen, even that part is almost the same, because data abstraction is a process that is achieved through encapsulation. So just to make things clear, if you are working on, let me just write things down. If you're working on abstraction, then you have to come and go into encapsulation. So I am not sure if abstraction is one step further ahead of encapsulation, or if it's a different process altogether, because this is a confusion that's available with a lot of people, or that is still persistent in a lot of organizations. But Again, coming back to the topic, abstraction is the process of hiding, or it is process of covering the real implementation of an application from the user and emphasizing on its usage only. Now, what do we understand by this? If any of you could, probably take a while, pause the video, and give us an answer about it, or probably if you could, just write us down with things like these, that this is what I was thinking, I think we would feel really happy about it. Okay, now coming back to the process of abstraction, let us assume that you have switched on your Windows computer and you hear this welcome noise or welcome sound. Or notwithstanding that, when you're working on your mobile phones, you have a lot of applications that are still running up and running in the background. But if you're playing a game, there might be WhatsApp messages that are still getting delivered to you. Now, all this is happening because of abstraction. Right, guys? So abstraction is a process which mostly focuses on hiding things. And if you want to achieve abstraction, or if you kind of want to work on abstraction, then this can only be achieved, or this can be worked upon when we uh, kind of, have knowledge of interfaces and abstract classes. And we can achieve 100% abstraction when we use interfaces. And that is exactly what we would be looking at right now. Okay, so yeah, let us go back into it, and let us go back to the coding part and understand how abstraction is important. So here we are. As you can see, as a user, we are abstracted from the implementation when an object of credit card payment is created and the payment method is invoked using the object, comma, payment method of credit card payment where the class is involved. So here you can see I have come up with a small method wherein this is my answer, and you would notice. Okay, let us just go through what we have done. I've imported the abstract method, and then I've created a class of payment which has ABC. And in my next step, I'm creating another, not a class, I'm creating a class of payment within which I'm creating different objects. So first one is print slip, which has purchase of the amount followed by the amount. Then the second one is payment, which has nothing in it. The third one is credit card payment, which again has, if you can see, it has this payment which has nothing in it, and within this we are trying to print the credit card payment off with the amount. After which I'm considering another class again with the name payment, and again I'm considering this to be mobile wallet payment off. So the only difference between A and B, very honestly, is the textual part. Otherwise, if you look into the technicality of it, you would notice that the class being invoked is the same, and also the object being invoked is the same. But when you look at the answer, you would notice that your system is able to generate answers of all without showing anything which is unnecessary. Now this is where, or this is how you would be working on abstraction. So abstraction is a method wherein you would be abstracted from anything, or you can abstract or remove anything which is not necessary or which would not add value to your code. Now here this is another wherein I'm, if you can see, we have parrot can fly, we have four texts. Parrot can fly, it can't swim. Penguin can't fly, but penguin can swim. Now I have created one common interface here, guys. And also please note that we've taken only two classes. The first, okay, let me also reduce the size of the window for our convenience. so that we can take a look at the code in one go. Right. So I'm considering two classes. Okay, let me just use a pen also for better visibility. So the first one that I am using here, all right, is a class or is a class 1. The second one is here, which is class 2. Now each of these classes, and like the class 1 and class 2, further have two objects each. This has got two objects while this has got two as well. Right? Again, please note that the names that we are considering here, 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 and here are all the same. Okay, now that we have considered the first class to be with the name fly and the second class to be, okay, first class to be parrot and the second one to be penguin, I am now considering a common interface here. And this common interface is named as flying test with bird being passed into it, guys. Please pay attention. This here, if you can see, I am passing my data or my value of bird into this. So it would be, in my next step, I'm using bird.fly. So what would bird.fly get me? This is fly. This is also fly. But we've not specified or we've not instantiated an object yet. So that is why in my next step, I'm taking two names, that is Blue and Peggy for penguin. Okay, and then if you can see, I'm using flying test of Blue. And when I do flying test of Blue, because Blue is parrot, guys, please understand, because okay, let me just clear the screen so that we understand. Yeah, flying test of Blue. Blue is a parrot, and parrot has these two features, that is parrot can fly or parrot cannot fly. And if you go one step onto the top and you again see you have bird. Okay, forget this bird, but you have bird dot fly. And what is fly? Fly says parrot can fly, which is the reason why here you have this statement. Now let us understand the next one also. I'll just delete the screen for better convenience. So here you have Peggy, right? Peggy refers to a penguin. And here when you look about it again, I'm talking about penguin, which is a bird, and fly. And what does fly refers to here? It says penguin can't fly. And you see I have penguin can't fly here. So guys, everything or anything that you kind of work on when you're using Python or when you're using concepts of OOPS, they can be directly related to or they can be directly tracked to based on the hierarchy or based on the flow that you have created while you're working on your piece of code. Well, guys, so now let us go forward into the next part and understand what is it. I mean, the next concept of object-oriented programming language is yet pending on the stack. Oops, yeah, so here it is. Well, now that we have understood abstraction in a couple of codes, the next one that I have for you is encapsulation. Now, what is encapsulation? As you can see or as you can understand, it is to encapsulate. The word stands as raw as you listen to. Encapsulation has values inside the capsule. So let us just draw an image so that we probably understand a bit about it. Now, this here is my capsule, right? And here I have my information which is hidden within. It's hidden inside or it is kept inside. All right. Now let us go through the definition for a better understanding. It is the mechanism that binds together the code and the data it manipulates. Other way to think about encapsulation is it is a protective shield that prevents the data from being accessed by the code outside this shield. So it means that every piece of code that you see on a general footnote are all encapsulated. Correct? I hope you all are in agreement with me, because we all know how Windows works, or but do we have the codes, or you know do we know how to work on multiple windows wherein all the windows are open and yet you're doing something else? All these features still require encapsulation. So guys, in short, it would not be wrong for anyone to say that when you're working on one end-to-end program using Python for data science, or in fact using Python standalone as well, and if that program of yours involves use of object oriented, or if there is use of it, then I really don't think that you would be using them in a series, or you would be using them one after another. Object oriented, without it, I have hardly seen any programs or any real-time setup which is being complete. So guys, this is where Python or object oriented programming for Python becomes very, very important for us, right? So now going forward, right. So going forward, we have understood that technically in encapsulation, the variables or the data of a class is hidden from any other class. So there would not be a clash of different classes. That is also ensured when you're working with encapsulation. The next one is, what are the different features that encapsulation can do for us? So it can work on data hiding, it gives us increased flexibility and reusability. Right, guys? So these are the different aspects where encapsulation can be used for. Now, let us just again quickly go back to the place where we belong. Guys, this is the place where we belong to. We do not belong a lot on the theory side, but still, because there are some concepts which become very, very important for us, we do not have an option. Okay, so this is another method of, polymorphism here, wherein we are using polymorphism with overriding. Okay, let us just read this before we go further. Polymorphism lets us define. Okay, let me just increase the screen size by a bit. Well, I hope now that it's visible for all of us. So polymorphism lets us define methods in the child class that have the same name as methods in parent class. So what can you do here? You can ensure that you have the same names also. And in inheritance, the child class inherits the methods from parent class. So here you don't have the same name concept. You have the same features concept here rather. However, it is possible to modify a method in child class that it has inherited from a parent class. Now let us assume that there are 10 features that B has imported from A. Then we can still modify almost all the features that B has imported from A. So that should not be a problem. And this is highly useful in cases where the method which is inherited from the parent class does not fit into the child class. And in such cases, we may want to re-implement the method in a child class. And this process of re-implementation is what is called as method overriding. Right, guys? So method overriding is a classical example of implementing a method in a child class. Or rather than using the word implementing, it is the process of redoing the method in child class. Right, guys? So here, as you can see, we can see that the methods such as string, which have not been overridden in child classes, are used from parent class. And due to polymorphism, the Python interpreter automatically that recognizes that the fact method, yeah, it is not as a fact. It is recognized that the fact method for object is overridden. So it uses one defined in the child class. We look into it right away and get rid of the confusion. So here I've imported a small library, and as you can see, we have two classes. And what are the two classes? The first one is shape and the second one is a square. But guys, please pay attention. Within square, I have instantiated shape as well, just to let you know. And when we are working, what are we doing? Like the first step that we are using or that we're doing is we have created a self and a name. An area is created, but it has nothing in it. And there is a fact of self. Fact of self, guys. Okay. And this says I am a two-dimensional shape. And then I'm again using str self. Please remember this is the self. And I'm using return self dot name. Guys, this is the name. And we don't know what the name is right now. And in the next or in the second class, I am considering another class which is square, and within square I already have my shape. And guys, how do we know that? You can know that if you kind of. Okay, cool. So I have my class of shape, and below I have my class of square of shape, and this shape is coming from the top. After that, I am taking a define of init method, right? Where have a super method init. Here you can see I have a super class that I'm considering. Then I have an init, and inside this I'm using my square. But guys, this is not a class we've created. This is a text. Please pay attention. Okay, and then within self length we are considering the length, which is coming from this step. Right. Now to the next step. We have an area of self, right, wherein I'm returning self length into 2. And this is not into, by the way, this is raised to 2. Okay, after or square, because we're working on the squares. The next one is another fact, another sentence which says squares have each angle equal to 90 degrees, and then another class again. This time it's a circle. Again we have shape here also. Now guys, in the next step what we're doing is we are considering the values. Okay, now that you have understood what is flowing through what, and a detailed structure of the code, it is now imperative for us to understand what are these values or how am I printing them. So first things first, I have A as a square of 4. I have B as a circle of 7. Now I print B and it shows that it's a circle, right? Then in my next step, we're printing b dot fact here. And when you print b dot fact, it is saying that it is a two-dimensional shape. See, I am a two-dimensional shape. And how do we have this? I am a two-dimensional shape when you do uh, b dot fact. I mean, if this is what you're doing, then why do you have the answer to be I'm a two-dimensional shape? It is because that value is here. And this is the fact that we have within it. And guys, I hope I am being understood, and also that there's no confusion in what is being delivered. The next one is a dot fact. Now let us just check what a dot fact is. Okay, a is a square, so this is a square, and then I have my fact, and it says squares have each angle of up to 90 degrees. So that is also taken care of. And then in the third one, I have print b dot area, and this is print b dot area, where b is a circle, and within this I have an area, and it is pi into self radius raised to the power 2, which is giving us an answer of 153.9. So this is how we work on concepts of object-oriented programming, or we work on polymorphism, which is a concept within object-oriented programming. Right, guys, let us now just quickly skim through what we've covered in the morning. So I have started with working on what is a class of parrot, and this I've given it a species, which is bird. I've given an attribute to the class. After which we have considered an instance method, which is init. And when we use init, you can kind of ensure that it can be used or reused for different purposes at different points of time. Then we are using, or rather than saying using, we are instantiating the parrot class. Here you see I have a parrot whose name is blue, and I have another parrot whose name is Woo, right? Yep. After this, in the next step, we are printing, and we are printing for a value. And how is that happening? Blue is followed by a flower bracket. Now, this is the place where the answer is supposed to get in. And how would the answer creep into it, or how would the answer get into it? So let us understand that now. So to have an answer into it, we would now have to use something called as format. And what would format do for us? Format would actually give us, or it would access elements within a value. So now here blue is a bird, right? Now we don't know what blue is. If we take a look at our data set, or if we take a look at our coding, what have we done? I have now written format blue, which is the name of my bird. Okay, blue. I'm taking considering the class. And what class are we supposed to consider? Of species. And here in species, it automatically knows that it's a bird. And the same thing is what we would be doing for Woo. Even Woo is a bird. Just that the English, or probably the way we've written, may differ a bit, but the coding logic or the coding paradigm is bound not to change. Right, guys? And here also I'm kind of performing the same step. I'm using print. I'm taking two brackets. First one should have the name. The second one should have the age. And where are they within? They are within blue and Woo. So blue has blue, which is a parrot, has a name of blue and an age of 10. Woo is also a parrot and has an age of 15. And that is exactly what you're seeing here. But guys, please remember, if I interchange this, for example, I cut this and I change this to name. While if I remove this and I change this to age, and if I now again execute for an output, you would see the English is now a bit too twisted. Who is 15 years old while 10 is blue years old. So the important message that I would want you to take away from here is, when you use these kinds of commands, which are like format and all, your order also becomes very, very important. Alright, guys. So let us now go on to the next one, and let me change this back to its original form. Well, done that. This is about a method. So here I have taken only one class, which is parrot, and I have considered three methods or three objects within. And here, what are the three? The first one is init, the second one is sing, and the third one is dance. So guys, I hope you have understood that all the while that we are working on object-oriented programming language, we are only trying to play around with the objects that have been created at the top or at the bottom based on our convenience. Object-oriented is moreover for hiding things or unhiding things. It is moreover for functionalities which are not achieved through simple programming. Cool. Now, when we talk about or typical programming interface, there are some very important terminologies that we would have to understand or that we would have to cover. And of those, the first one that I would want to talk about, I think we've already talked about it, but just to give you a small re-understanding, you have something called as a class, after which we have a variable of class, we have objects, we have methods, right? And then we have inheritance, polymorphism, uh, etc. Okay, I mean, these are some of the names that I'm able to remember right now. And let me just give you a quick walkthrough of each of these. So first things first, that we have is a class. Class is nothing but a small user-defined function that you would want to create to pass attributes into it. All right, and the attributes are data members which have members which can be accessed via dot notation or which can be accessed via the double underscore. Then the next one that we have is a class variable. Now this is a variable that is shared by almost all instances of a class. They are defined within a class, but they work outside as well. The third one is a data member, nothing very important. Well, the next one is function overloading. This can also be called AKA as polymorphism. So yeah, wouldn't be wrong to say that even function overloading is assuming a lot of roles that it's getting overloaded. Simple. After which we have instance. We have heard this word a lot of times, like what is instance and instantiate. There's a difference between instance and instantiation and inheritance. Guys, let me make a note of these three words so that we are all in agreement. So there are three words that we have. The first one being instance, the second one being inheritance, and the third one being inheritance, instantiation. Right there. So these are the three words that we have available on which we work a lot whenever we work on Python. So when we talk about firstly instance is what we have. So when we talk about instance, it's a variable that is defined inside a method. Simple. It is like the smallest unit. Followed by instantiation. It is creation of an instance within a class, like a DEF, which we're doing. They are all getting instantiated. Then the next one that I have after instantiation is the method. And sorry, after instantiation is the inheritance. We all know what inheritance is. So I hope these three terminologies have now been understood. Instance is when an object is existing of certain class and it belongs to some other one or some other name or some other class. That's when it's called instance. Instantiation is activation or creation. And then we have inheritance, which is a concept of object-oriented programming, wherein property A is having features of property B. So I guess I hope you have all understood this and we are all in the same line. And if there's any difficulty, please write to us, and we would love to ensure that your queries are resolved at the earliest again. Then there is also one important term that I forgot to talk about, which is operator overloading. And here, the assignment of more than one function is used to build one particular operator. So these are the different uh, things that you would have to know about when we are working on object-oriented programming as an interface. Again, there are a lot of other things which we need to cover here in the coding structure. Let us understand the hierarchical flow of how information is flowing from the top to bottom. And in order to talk about it, here we have the third, which is inheritance. And what am I doing in inheritance, guys? If you could see, I'm creating two variables or two classes. First one with the name bird and second one with the name a penguin. Cool. And whenever we are working on things like these, it actually becomes important or very important for us to ensure that these classes or that these, you know, uh, functional objects that we have, they are to be done properly. And how would we do that? In order to do that, I would be now using the first word, that is bird is ready. And this is within init. Then within who is this, I have my bird. This is a text, by the way, and this is not a function that's being called. Then in my third, I have self with the name swim, and I'm printing swim faster. Likewise, I'm printing a different set of total unique class names or a unique class name rather for the penguin. So you see the first one is bird, the second one is penguin, while all other names are the same. You have init on the top, init on the bottom. You have who is this on the top and who is this at the bottom, followed by these names are different. You have swim here and you have run here. Now, if these names are also changed, then you can say that it is a variant of polymorphism that we are trying to work on. Even now, we are already working on a very mild variant of polymorphism, because who is this is still common between both of them, while we have a penguin at the bottom and a bird on the top. So, yeah. And how are we having an output, or what is it that is expected from us? So you see you have Peggy, which is equal to penguin, and I have passed who is this into it, followed by swim and followed by the run. And each and every time that you do these kind of imports, you would notice that it is actually taking you back into the same concept, or it's actually taking you back into the same class which has this answer or this text which you have printed on the output. Now if that is a bit confusing to understand, let me again reduce the size of the screen by a bit. Right, this is where we were working on. Here also, if you can see, my output has three outputs, I suppose. The first one, the first of them is Peggy dot who is this. Now, who is this is here and here. But where do we have Peggy? We don't have Peggy in either of the places, but Peggy is a penguin. So obviously a system would then come here. I mean, I don't mean them in stepwise. A system would definitely start from the top. It wouldn't go to the eighth line and then come back to the first line. That is not something that's happening. This is just for the sake of understanding technical content. As simple as that. right? So the next one is who is this? After which I am taking a swim, correct? Now when I take swim again, it's Peggy dot swim, and Peggy is a penguin. So the output that I would be having is okay. So we don't have a swim at the bottom, but we have a swim at the top. So that is where this would correspond to, and then I have Peggy dot run, which is used on the third step. Now that we have an understanding about what my input code is, let us cross check with the output. So it says bird is ready, penguin is ready, penguin swim faster and run faster. So these are different combinations of words that we have brought up with by using some basics of object-oriented programming structure. Now to the next one. All right. So what do we have here? Guys, if you can carefully notice, we have three things. We have three things as in three objects and one class. The class being computer and the objects being with different names. We have init, we have cell, and we have set max price. So these are the different objects that we have. And when I say C is equal to computer, so now my system knows that whenever I use C, all these elements would get passed into it. Like all these independent objects would get passed into it. After which I am using C dot cell, wherein in C dot cell, I would now be having selling price with the format of this max price. Right, guys, I hope you have understood. Where do I have max price located at? That is here. Okay, so after that, and this, I mean, like after once we have understood the relationship between what is max price and why do we have this line here, I think your problem is solved on the spot. There is nothing else for you to understand. I mean, if you understood what I have just marked, okay, because I'm giving my computer a name of C. And what is computer? Computer is my only class that is available here in this piece of code. And I'm using C.cell, that is computer.cell. And it says the price is 900 from the top. Cool. Then in my next step, where is it? Yeah, in my next step, I'm using C.cell. After which I'm changing, I had to change the price. That is C underscore max price, which was 900. Okay, it's changed to 1000. And I'm again using C.cell in my second step. And finally, in my third, I'm using a setter function because a setter function would kind of be able to access or would be able to change even those functions which are behaving a bit redundant or which are behaving a bit obsolete. So it would always be better for us to know or for us to use concepts from things like these. That is, you could use functions when you have them available rather than trying to create the whole piece of code once again. Right? This is a parrot. We have covered this already. This also has been covered. We have seen what is polymorphism in detail, and we have understood the mathematics part as well. So guys, this brings us to an understanding about how each and every concept in object oriented can be handled. How can each and every you know topic or how would each and every topic make a difference in this vast stream called object oriented. But guys, we're not done yet. There are some very important questions that you would be bounced about, or that you would be bounced on when you attend an interview. For example, let me just think of a few, like what are manipulators? Let me just give you definitions or some very important questions that you would be asked if in case this concept of object oriented comes into picture. So the first one is, what is manipulation or manipulator? Probably what is a constructor? Do we all know what is a constructor? We would be talking about these right away. There's also something called as a destructor. We all know what is inline function, but still, some questions that I'm able to remember, as I said. We have something called as a friend function, and that is it. I think these are some very okay method overriding. But guys, things like these are important for us when you're working on. Oops. We have also seen what is, or we also had to know what is interface when we were working on some concept. Okay, so let us just talk about these right now. So first things first, what is an interface? It is in short a collection of abstract method. The second one is manipulator. Now, when we talk about a manipulator or what a manipulator is, you can say that I mean, it's not nothing theoretical. Manipulator is moreover, it's a function which can be used in conjunction with add or extract or anything else. Okay, then you have a constructor. And when we talk about a constructor, it is used to initialize basically. Constructors are used to initialize. And what are they used to initialize? The state of an object and how would it behave at the time of production or at the time of construction or at the time of go live phase is where it becomes necessary. A constructor name, guys, there are also one or two rules which are very important. A construction name should be the same as class name, and B, a constructor cannot have any return type because I mean, there's no point in having a return to a constructor. It serves no good. Okay, after a constructor, we now have a destructor. And what is a destructor? It is a method in which we automatically call we can automatically say that the object is made of scope and it is destroyed. These names are also as class names, but here the symbols that we use is a bit different. The third one or the next one that we have is, what is an inline function? An inline function is, it is a methodology wherein the compilers and the so it's like this, the compilers instruct to insert the necessary body of function wherever it is necessary. So if you're using a inline function, it would with it bring certain piece of code and push it into your actual code. So your inline function may be only of one line, but if that function has another code of 200 lines, so your code or your current code is already 300 lines, right? So this is how inline function works. The next one we have is, what is a friend function? It is a class, basically, which can be used to access or which can be used to go into public, private, or protected data in some cases. That is when you might want to use this. And if the function is defined as outside the class, then I don't think it can access such information. So that is also something that's not happening. All right. Then the next point, where did it go? Yeah, the next point about a friend class is, it can be declared anywhere. Okay, declared anywhere. And it cannot be affected by access control keywords like private, public, or protected. does not have an effect. Right, guys? So this is the basic about a friend class. Then we have in the next step what is method overriding, or what is function overriding. Now let us just talk a bit about this kind of an overloading. It is whenever you see that you are creating a lot of methods one below another or one within another, or a lot of classes or a lot of objects, you see that your data is, though your code is getting more complex, your output is getting less accurate, because there's so many conditions that it has to check by. And notwithstanding just mathematical conditions, there are also uh, chunks of code that would go into the frame. So, guys, if you ask me, it is better, or in my suggestion, it is better that we work a bit different. Okay, we keep things easy for a fellow developer. You can use any of these. Okay, like for example, what is an abstract class? Now, if this question is bounced upon you, you should be able to have an answer ready. Okay, so the word that I've been asking is, what is an abstract class? I would not expect an answer that abstract is again derived from encapsulation. But if you know what it is, then guys, please pause the video, write them down in your book or wherever you feel like you're comfortable, and then cross check. And trust me, that happens to be the best way to evaluate yourself, or to evaluate your content. And also, when we talk about an abstract class, it is something which cannot be instantiated in the first place. It is creation of an object that is not possible with an abstract class, but if it can be inherited, then it works. All right. While we, notwithstanding Python, for a while, Java also uses abstract methods or abstract classes. So there is huge information that we could keep talking about abstraction throughout the day, but I think it would be enough if we could restrict our discussion or restrict our knowledge transfer without making it very clumsy for us. The next one is, what are some methods that you would want to use to finalize something, or something like that? Well, they would help us perform cleanup operations like finalized methods. Finalized method is protected and it can be accessed only and only through this class or this derived class or this derived unit. It cannot be done from anywhere else. And now that we have come into the discussion of arguments, let's also take a look at what are the different types of arguments that we have. The first one is called by value. It is COV or CPV, I'm not very sure. The second one is called by reference. Now, there is a very small, or well, I would say hairline kind of a difference between these two arguments. The first one, which is called by value, here the value will get passed and it will get modified only inside the function. They are not independent of functions. But when we talk about call by reference and not call by value, here the values passed will get modified in both inside and outside, and their functions, and probably in all spheres, and it returns to the same place or different value after a while back. So this is how we can say that cross by value and cross by reference are kind of two very important questions that you might be bumped upon in your interview, guys. Also, you have super keyword, you have method overriding, you have exception handling, you have what are tokens, difference between overloading and overriding. Guys, there is a lot of questions that is yet to be asked, and a lot of knowledge that's yet to be exchanged between us. Loads and loads, right? So, yeah, coming back. Oops. Yeah. Coming back to this, I hope now that you have understood what is polymorphism, what is abstraction, and what is encapsulation, let us now quickly understand one case study, or one small real-time scenario on object-oriented programming. Okay, so as I said, one of the example that we've discussed about is the Windows starting, or the other example which I have discussed is about the multiple applications on your mobile. The third one is wherein you're working on A, but B is still working even if it is not in the background. Okay, so all of these are typically case studies only when we talk about Python, or when we talk about object-oriented concepts within Python. Right? So, guys, this is what I have for you in this session. And I really hope that you have understood what polymorphism is, what is abstraction, what is encapsulation, and concepts related to it. So, if you have any queries, I'm sure you all now know what to do. Please write to us whenever you would come up with one. And trust me, we would try to get back to you at the earliest. Thanks a lot for your prolonged patience. Please do not forget to like if you have felt that there is some knowledge that you've been able to acquire, and also do not forget to hit on the subscribe button, because when you do that you would be having access to a plethora of videos, or you would be having access to a plethora of content to choose from. Again, thank you very much. This is me, Varun Rao, your trainer, your mentor, signing off, wishing you a great day.